Hi, welcome to my tutorial on solving quadratics using the quadratic formula. We've got our quadratic formula here. Now that's given to you at the front of the GCSE higher level maths paper in the formula page, so you don't have to remember it at this stage. What we do need to know though is what does the A, B and C represent? Okay, well I've got a quadratic equation here. It says in the question that I've got to solve it to 2 decimal places, which tends to give away the fact that you can't factorise this because we need a decimal answer. As long as it's equal to 0, and remember all quadratics must be equal to 0 before we actually solve them, then actually identifying what A, B and C represent is fairly straightforward because it goes in order of what the numbers appear. A would represent the first number, so A equals 3. B is the second number, which is 8, and C is the third number, which is negative 12. Please remember to write down the negative sign as well, because that is extremely important. Now what we've got to do is we need to replace our letters in our formula with the values we've got in our specific equation. So if I go to the start here, minus B, well B is 8, so I write minus 8 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 8 squared, take away 4, times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 12. And that's all going to be divided by 2 times a, which is 3. Now the next stage would be to actually condense that a little bit, tidy it up. So here we'd have minus 8 plus or minus the square root of, well, 8 squared is 64, and then I'm going to take away 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 times negative 12 is negative 144. And that's all going to be divided by 6. Now, once I do the next stage, I've got minus 8 plus or minus the square root. Well, 144 add 64 gives me 208. Now notice these double negatives here. They become a positive, so that's why I get my positive answer in the square root. If you get a negative answer in the square root, then you've probably done something wrong. It's not something that can't happen. You can get a negative in the square root, but then you won't have an answer to these quadratics. So look for a positive number there. Now that's going to be divided by 6. Now what we've got to do is just type this into our calculator, and that will give us our answers. So we'll have x is going to equal, and x is going to equal. There's going to be 2 values for this because we've got the plus and the minus there. We've always got the 2 answers for a quadratic. So go to your calculator and type in, start off negative 8 plus the square root of 208, and then press your equals button. Then divide that by 6, and you get your answer 1.07 to 2 decimal places. 1.07, and that's the first one. Now we need to put in the negative. So minus 8, take away the square root of 208 equals, divide that by 6, and you get your answer negative 3.74. Okay, example 2 then. Now for example 2, we can clearly see that it's not equal to 0. So before we can solve this, we have to rearrange that equation a little bit and make it equal to 0. Well, it's simple to do. I'm just going to take the 9 away from both sides. So I've now got 9x squared minus 3x, 7 take away 9 gives me negative 2, and that now equals 0. Now we can solve it. So again, like we did with example 1, I write a equals 9, b is going to equal negative 3, and c is going to equal negative 2. Now I'm going to put these into your formula. Now this is where the first mistake is often made. The formula suggests that it's minus b. Well, b is a negative anyway, So it really becomes minus 3. Now, a minus and a minus become a positive. So we start off with a positive 3 there, not a negative. Plus or minus the square root of minus 3 squared. Take away 4 times a is 9 and c is minus 2. Divide all of that by 2 times 9. First line. Now we're going to tidy it up a little bit. So I've got positive 3 plus or minus square root, or minus 3 squared is 9. Take away 4 times 9 is 36. 9 times negative 2 is negative 72. All divided by 18. Then I plus or minus the square root of 81. All divided by 18. Now I'm at the stage where I can put my two answers in. So go to your calculator. First one, you've got to put the positive in. So we've got 3 plus the square root of 81 equals. Divide that by 18 and you're going to get 0.66, which is 0.7. Then we put our negative in, so I've got positive 3. I'm going to take away the square root of 81, which is going to give me negative 6. Divide that by 18, and my answer becomes negative 0.33.